Hello, Richard.
Hey, Jake, how are you?
Good. I'm here in Miami, which is awesome. The reefing community, the stores, all the stuff going on down here is just fantastic. But one of the places I was most excited to come to was to come and actually see your tank in person and hang out with you for an afternoon. So how are you?
I am doing fantastic. I don't know what to say to that. I feel very flattered and humbled. Wow, because there's so many great reefers. As you mentioned, Jay, we have a great reefing community here. This is actually one of the hubs in the United States. So besides California, I believe Florida, especially South Florida, is one of the biggest markets, and we have so many great shops, places just to go. And so when Jay says it, I don't know. I don't know how to feel at this moment.
Feel lucky. I would love to be in this environment, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, we're here with your new tank, and obviously we've been, you know, talking about this tank since the beginning, on and off. But it's really cool to see it coming along. And you know, you have, you know, the corals growing in really good. I think you said Julian sprung. Some of this is his, some of it's bits you've collected, right? And
yes. So basically, when I got my new tank, Julian is such an awesome, amazing guy. He calls me over, hey, you want to grab a lunch? I'm like, yeah, sure. I heard that you got a new tank. Would you like some frags? I'm like, sure, because who doesn't want frags, especially coming from Julian? And, you know, these days coral frags are maybe about an inch, half inch, or size of a pinky nail, you know? So I was like expecting not so big frags. And he comes with a 5-gallon bucket, and I look at it, and it is literally size of my hand. Here's a frag. So I'm like, well, thank you.
So some of these you're growing from small pieces, and then some of these actually came in as quite large pieces.
But I would say about like 90% of my corals start as a frag, and the only thing that you see that's big here are Julian's gorgs.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Like those right there, like in the back, and those on the side. And they all have a nice story to them. Julian is a speaker all around the world, and he's an avid lover of gorgonians. So whenever he travels, he likes to visit local fish stores, and he sees different types of gorgs around the world, and he collects them. And I was fortunate to get parts of his collection here.
Including the sea fan, right? Which is actually, you guys grew out from some live rock?
Yes, this sea fan is actually Venus sea fan, and the hobby, you can't collect them legally. However, on a live rock, when we got it from the Key West, it actually had a small one inside. We found one this one was actually Key West rock that was purchased from a reef store in Miami. My friend found it, he grew it, and then when he was taking down his tank, he gave it to me, and then I put it over here. And now the DNA's been spreading all over the South Florida.
Very cool. And it's really interesting too, like hanging out here talking to you beforehand, because one of the things as I go on my own journey as a hobbyist that I'm discovering is what I really love is I love creating the ecosystem. Like to me, it's about creating a tank that grows, thrives, looks beautiful. I talked to, you know, there's other people who are clearly coral collectors.
Yeah.
Dimitri up in Canada is one of those people. He's very concerned about the particular corals, and he's always looking for rare or interesting morph acropores.
Yeah.
You seem to be actually kind of a fish guy.
Well, you know, I like both, but thing is that I love corals, don't get me wrong, but thing is that it doesn't give you the interaction like fish does. And thing is that, you know, Jay, and you have kids as well, so, you know, like when we feed the tank and the interaction that we get with the fish, it's complete different experience as when we're trying to feed corals. And that's what I like, and I like to see that movement in the tank. And, you know, it's just, in the end, it's just also a challenge to keep certain species alive. And, you know, like just that vibrance of color is just eye-catching, and it's mesmerizing.
I have to say, after talking to you too, and seeing your tank and just spending 10 minutes hearing you talk about some of these fish, I'm certainly gonna reevaluate, you know, how I look at fish in my reef tank. Because, as I said, I'm more of a, you know, I want this guy in there because he'll eat algae. I want this guy in here because he'll keep parasites under control. I want a couple of these because they'll fill in some space and they'll hang out and add a little, you know, life to the aquascaping. But, you know, hearing you talk about your, you know, acquiring this angelfish, for example, tell us about that one.
This gold flake angelfish is actually through my good friend Chris Meckley of ACI Aquaculture in Plant City. I wanted an extremely tiny gold flake because angelfish, they have this nasty habit of munching on corals. And even though they're relatively reef safe, I did not want to take that risk. Well, make that risk as small as possible. So I tried to get this about an inch or smaller, just to have it kind of like trained on my feeding and not so much on corals. So we talked to his supplier in Christmas Island, and he was able to ship a fish that's just about an inch, or maybe a hair smaller than an inch, and I was able to grow him. I would say about 2 inches now, right? Like
at least probably, maybe a little bigger.
Actually, I only had him,
very healthy looking fish.
I only had him about a month and a half, and he grew, like, he doubled his size. But I also I feed very heavily, so he's definitely thriving, and he's not even looking at the corals. And we'll keep my fingers crossed on that one.
And speaking of fish you wouldn't normally expect to see in a reef, so you've got a bit of a celebrity in the back here too, right?
Yes, he's a crosshatch trigger, and you see, if you look at my tank, you see it as a 3 rockscapes like this. This was actually inspired by a very, very famous reefer around the world. His name is Ching Chai of Thailand. He was one of the Magna speakers for 2013. And before then, I always just used power rocks and just place corals everywhere, and it was stacked. But he had that minimalist look, and it just looked fantastic. And then one of the crown jewel on his tank was that trigger. And ever since then, I always wanted it, but I never had the big enough tank to put one in. And now that Hawaii ban was here, and it was more difficult to acquire one of these, I was kind of in a frenzy. And I was pulling all my contacts to get one. And then my good friend and a good author, Lance Ichinobuso of Elite Marine Life by Captive Sea, called me one day and like saying, hey, I have this trigger that you want in this Miami Heat basketball player's house. If you want it, it's yours. We'll work out the payments later. He didn't have to tell me twice. I drove down in 30 minutes and got the fish. He had it quarantined for about 5 months. So I had no doubts, put him right in. And he is, he is thriving in the tank. He eats 1 pack of LRS a week.
Wow.
He's a pig, yeah.
And you have a gender-changing Anthias?
Yes, my wife is a big fan of Anthias.
These are beautiful, by the way. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous.
Right now, I have a lot of Bartlett Anthias from Hawaii, and then I have some Larrytail Anthias from Indo. And Larrytail Anthias, well, in Anthias in general, the rule of thumb is, you know, you have to get 1 male and then 3 females. Well, because in Anthias is one of the interesting fish because they change sex. One of the dominant female will turn male, and I have heard, I can't really confirm because I'm not a supplier or anything, but I have heard from several friends that males don't typically ship well. So I grabbed a lot of females and then put them in there, and then I was hoping for one to change, and luckily started to do so. My dominant female Larrytail is changing. My Bartlett is already changed to a male, and this one is showing all the characteristics of a male now. The color is, you can still see the female colors, but you can see that the dorsal fin is starting to pop out. You can see the bottom fins are turning black, and then you can see the purple and red is getting deeper, more vibrant. So it's fun progress. You know, it's some of the things that you enjoy when you see the tank.
Well, I mean, awesome, man. I love the tank, and you know, and again, like, just on behalf of my company and you know, all of us in the industry who work with you, I just want to, you know, thank you for you're very selfless in this hobby for everything that you do,
You
and we really appreciate it. He's blushing.
I am. We'll blame on the lights. No, but thank you so much for coming down. It's always fun hanging out with you guys. You guys are such a wonderful innovators, and you know, it means a lot because because a lot of hobbyists, like, we have a lot of opinions, and we tend to have a lot of, just like, what if it was like this? What if it was like this? And I really appreciate you guys just taking time to listen to us and, addressing all of our concerns and issues with all your releases.
Well, thank you.